Oh, hello.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome back to Historia.
I'm Kylie.
I'm Jamie.
And we are here with another fun history story today.
Yay. Again, Kylie and I don't have any idea what we're covering for each other.
Yeah, no, we don't. We never know.
Which is dangerous.
Yeah, I was like, because you said you chose random topics, and I really did choose random topics too. Like, none of mine correlate.
Yeah.
So I was like, I feel like we should be good.
Yeah, literally.
So I have this fancy wheel that gives me like a topic idea that I made. So like,
oh,
I'll have to show it to you later. Because if I go to my internet, you're going to see my sources and it will give something away. But I'll show you later. I have like a wheel and it has like, are we going to talk about a religion? Or like, it just has a bunch of different ideas.
Oh.
Hidden or, like the stolen objects, that kind of thing. And so it landed on company. And I was like, oh, I love researching a company. And this one in particular, I looked up which companies have the most like drama. And it gave me this one, and it really doesn't have that much drama. So I was like, oh, but it is a cool story.
You're so organized. I literally get my ideas from Instagram half the time.
No, it's just like that. Like, I have a list of ideas, but like, I like just like knowing what, I don't know. Like, I like starting with that idea. Like, am I going to do a company or person? It landed on stolen object, but I was like, I feel like we just did one of those.
Yeah.
So I skipped it and did a new one. So yeah, the first episode that I'll be doing today, because we record these in batches, so I know to you all, this is the first episode of the week, obviously. We only release one episode a week. But today I'm going to talk about Nintendo.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I thought it was a fun one. But yeah, there's not like, it's not like McDonald's with all the drama, but it is still a really interesting story.
Oh.
So yeah, and a lot easier to follow than the McDonald's story. So I got my sources from a website called Flat Life that kind of just goes over how companies start, LifeWire, and then the Nintendo website had a good amount of information.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Shout out to that.
Are you going to talk about Nintendo World?
Well, I mean, I was going to briefly mention it, but I didn't really research it.
Oh, I really want to check it out.
I know. It would be really cool to go there. I've heard it's really awesome. So we're going to start off with a good old founder. And guys, these are, this is a Japanese name. And so if I butcher it, I'm sorry. I've tried to practice it. So just, but his name was Fusahiro Yamauchi. I know for sure that's how you pronounce his last name.
I
just don't know
love that.
I know, it's kind of fun. And he was born November 22nd, 1859. So it's almost his birthday. Whoop, whoop.
Oh, shit.
And he's a Sagittarius like me, so besties.
How old was this guy when he created Nintendo?
I'm glad you caught that. Very old.
Oh my God.
Let's just say he didn't see Nintendo where it ended up going.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, no. He just saw the first stages. So yeah, I know. I was blown away by that too. Like 1859.
Damn.
So anyway, he lived in Kyoto, Japan during the late 19th century. And due to illegal gambling, card games had been banned in Japan for over 250 years.
Oh, shit.
So they were kind of like, how do we entertain ourselves? And there was a game that was really popular called Hanafunda, which used pictures instead of numbers. And so it was not illegal, technically. Because you can't gamble pictures.
I think I saw that in one of my shows I was watching.
The little art cards.
Yeah.
They're pretty cool. They still use them in Japan today. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, this was their way of like being able to play cards, but without it being illegal.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Playing the system.
I know. So the Japanese government eventually became more relaxed on these regulations and kind of chilled a little bit more with it. So in 1889, when he was 30 years old, Yamauchi started a small business to sell handcrafted artwork painted on cards, of which was actually from bark from a Mitsumata tree. So they took bark and then he just like colored over it. It's pretty
that's cool.
Yeah. The name eventually became Nintendo, which meant leave luck to heaven. Other people will say it loosely means that. It's not like a direct translation.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the vibe he was going for. So we don't get to that name for a while, but just so you kind of know, that will happen eventually, obviously. This is the history of Nintendo. So players could use these cards for Hanafunda. So they would buy the cards from him and then be able to use it in their game, which is kind of fun. So the cards were a hit, and Yamauchi had to hire staff to help him out eventually. So it was going well. And then in 1907, the cards were so popular, so they had to start being mass produced. So it was like a really quick expansion of it.
Damn.
And he saw that it was a need and he was like, let's go. They began creating Western style cards, which were originally intended for export, but became more popular in Japan and everywhere else in the world. So they knew that like, because everyone else wanted them and they were starting to sell outside of the country, they knew that they'd have to find a way to make it easier to make rather than sitting there and like hand painting every single one.
Yeah.
That takes a long time. And they were facing a lot of financial struggles due to how expensive it was. And so they decided to make a cheaper line of cards so the process would be easier and financially smart. And they named these cards Tengu. So local merchants liked the continuous renewal of decks since they weren't reusing cards. So even though they were like mass producing them, there were so many cards that you didn't really see the same one over and over again. So that made them very unique. Yeah. So local merchants were like, I have this one that's rare card, can't find it anywhere else. And it was founded as Marufuku Company, and they made cards for prisoners of war during the Russian and Japanese War from 1904 to 1905. So this company basically started making cards for prisoners so that they would have something to do. And then they were selling it to that company to give to them. So they were all kind of working together. And in 1907, the cards increased in popularity and they were eventually used for gambling.
Of course.
Full circle.
Oh, yeah.
So the most popular deck was called the Napoleon deck. And that's just a fun fact. But there were all kinds of decks that were very successful. And they ended up deciding to partner with the Japanese company called Japan Tobacco and Salt Corporation. And so the cards could now be sold in cigarette shops across Japan. This was a huge deal since everyone was smoking.
Of course.
And World War I came along, and honestly, it really didn't affect the cards much. But in 1925, they began exporting the cards to Japanese communities in South America, Korea, and Australia.
Oh, nice.
So they're starting to expand to a lot of different places. And then a few years later, in 1929, Yamauchi retired at the age of 70. And he left the company in charge of his adopted son-in-law, Sakurio Yamauchi. He originally was named Sakurio it looks like Canada, but I think it's like Kaneda. I don't know how you'd pronounce it. But he ended up marrying Fusahiro's daughter. So that's how he ended up getting the company, basically. Because he didn't have a son. So it was like his adopted son.
Oh.
So yeah, then he started taking over because he's already 70 years old.
Damn.
And just now starting to see success. That'd be so sad.
I know.
Like, you would leave a really good legacy, but like...
do the process of it.
Yeah, you don't get to see the success. Kind of sad.
That's rough.
And in 1933, the company was renamed Yamauchi Nintendo and Company. So, it's still kind of a long name, but they didn't want to like let go of the Yamauchi yet.
Yeah.
So unfortunately in 1940, Fusahiro Yamauchi passes away from old age and he would never be alive to see the legacy of Nintendo.
Oh.
And then a few years later, World War II came along.
Oh no.
And so it actually ended up negatively impacting the company, of course, as it negatively impacted everything. Especially as Japanese authorities prohibited foreign card games and society changed interests. They weren't so focused on playing games.
Nope. No.
So Hiroshi Yamauchi's grandson became president in 1950, which led to the name change of Nintendo Playing Card Company in 1951. And he consolidated the factories because there were so many and they were just like spending money that they didn't really need to. So they were trying to just like have like big factories that they could produce all the cards with without having them scattered everywhere, basically.
Yeah.
Then they began creating plastic coated cards in 1953 and even partnered with Disney in 1959. And there's actually some cards that are Nintendo, but they have Disney characters on them.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is very fascinating.
Huh.
So then in 1961, the company had now sold over 1.5 million card packs and held a high market share. And they were relying heavily on like televised advertisements, but people were eating them up. But then between 1963 and 1968, Nintendo set up a text company, a love hotel chain.
What?
I'm pretty sure that's just where you go hook up with people. A TV network and a food company and a lot of different other businesses just trying to find success in something else.
Yeah.
Because they knew like the cards, you know, Pokemon obviously did great with their cards, but they knew that like they'd need to move on with society and what society wants. Unfortunately, all of those things that they tried failed, and the sales for playing cards started dropping after the Tokyo Olympics.
What?
Very random, but yeah, that happened.
Okay.
I don't know. It was just like, okay. That's the thing that they thought led to it. I'm sure it was just like the time. I don't know. 1960s. They then began to produce toys to keep up with the market because that's what everyone was doing, as we talked about in the Barbie episode. You know, that was the thing to do. If all else fails, just sell a toy.
Literally.
Yeah. Well, their first toy was called the Rabbit Coaster, and I don't know what that is. I didn't look it up. I like to just use my imagination on that one.
It's just a rabbit on a little track.
I know, that's what I thought of. We'll have to look it up later. And then they also created something called the Ultra Hand, and it's just an extending arm that could grasp onto things far away.
Wait, isn't that just like a claw?
Yeah, pretty much. It's like a claw for kids.
Did they create that?
Well, I mean, it seems like this was the first one. If people, I mean, it sold like over 1 million copies across Japan.
Interesting.
And they couldn't find a popular toy for kids, but this was a great success.
I mean, why not?
What are kids reaching for?
Well, I'm pretty sure like adults would use it too.
Yeah, because they're like, gotta get something like far up here on the fridge or something.
I don't know why a kid would use it.
I know, because I was like, it's a kid toy? So yeah, very interesting. But they had a few other toys that were successful for a little bit, but none really could keep up with the market. None could really stick.
Yeah.
And then in 1970, they created the Nintendo Beam Gun. And it was a huge success. The way that I was looking at pictures and stuff because I'm like, okay, what does this mean? It's kind of like when you go to an arcade and you have those gun games.
Yeah.
So it like makes sound and there's like a laser.
Yeah.
So people thought this was so cool back then, you know, because there was really nothing like it that you could bring home.
Yeah.
So yeah, they created that. And this is really what led them to where they are now. Honestly, I think like creating this beam gun really set them up for success because then everyone else was seeing like, oh, they can help us with arcade games.
Oh.
Yeah. So this was like the start of kind of transitioning to that.
Getting with the times.
Yeah. They actually entered into a partnership in 1972 with Magnavox, and they created the first home video game console, and they called it the Magnavox Odyssey. And they made optoelectric guns for the console in America. So Magnavox was selling this console, and then Nintendo decided to make the gun for it. They just worked together. Super fun. And then they began distributing the console in Japan 2 years later. So yeah, and that was a pretty big success. People enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Then in 1977, Nintendo joined with Mitsubishi to release a new console.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it was I'm like, that makes me wonder what their history is. But
Literally.
and it was the Color TV Game 6. So just with that title, you can pretty much guess what it is. There's 6 games, and you can play it on a color TV. And this is the funniest part. All 6 games are just different variations of the game Pong.
Love it. Wow.
Literally, it's just like Pong doing this, Pong doing that. So
Pong's fun though.
it is, yeah. It cost about $110, like in today's dollars.
Damn.
Which is kind of a lot for that, but it was new.
Yeah.
New and exciting.
Yeah.
The color TV game 15 launched a week later. Can you guess what that is?
Just 15 games.
Of Pong, yes. They created more types of Pong.
Oh.
But this one had detachable controllers,
Oh.
which was like shocking.
How'd
You
that
can-
work?
It's kind of like how the Switch is today, actually.
Oh.
You know how you have the Switch and then like you can take off the two parts?
Yeah.
That's kind of how it was.
Oh.
So you could take it off and then use the joystick somewhere else.
Oh.
Yeah, they were doing it.
Yeah.
In June 1978, they released the color TV game Racing 112.
Wait, is this racing games now?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're like, we're done with these Pong games. It was shooting games and then Pong games and now racing. So this game came with a detachable steering wheel and there were 112 racing variations.
Oh.
It came with 2 controllers for multiplayer. Everyone was so shocked by that.
Oh.
Get to play with your friend. So yeah, that was doing really great. And then the next year, Hiroshi's son-in-law opened Nintendo of America in New York City, starting an operations division for coin-operated games. So they were really blowing up in arcades. Like you would see Nintendo everywhere.
Yeah.
That same year, Nintendo released the color TV game Block Kazushi. And it's kind of like the game Breakout, which I believe is a board game from back in the day. So it's like the computerized version of that. It was really popular. I don't know. I never played it. In 1980, there was like a computer TV trend. So they called it the computer TV. And it was extremely rare to find. And especially like, I don't even think you could find it nowadays. But like after a few years, it was like almost disappeared off the market. But it was a remake of Nintendo's game Othello, which was the first video game to be developed by Nintendo. So it was kind of like the vintagey thing you could buy.
Oh,
yeah.
nice.
You could probably sell it for big bucks.
Oh, yeah.
And this is when they were developing coin games, including Donkey Kong and Mario Brothers.
Love it.
Although it had a very different name back then. Donkey Kong had that name, but Mario was the jumping man. Woohoo! Exactly. So in 1980, they released the game and, this was called the Game & Watch. So it's basically like you can play one game on your watch and then you can also check the time.
Wow.
Me looking at my Apple Watch like, okay, it can track my steps. It tracks my heartbeat, my heart rate. I'm like, back then it was like, you could play one tiny game and look at the time. It's just so funny. Oh, I love it. So yeah, this was a huge deal though, because you could wear it on your watch, and a lot of kids would bring it to school
I
and
bet.
stuff. Yeah, but it only had one game, just one. And they made a few different versions, including a multi-screen that you could have. Oh, this was I believe the multi-screen was not a watch anymore, because that would be kind of hard to have.
Literally.
So I think it was just like a console, like a handheld.
Oh.
So it had 2 screens, kind of like a DS sort of.
Oh.
And then you could play on both of the screens. So yeah.
Fancy.
This was the tea that I found with Universal. So Universal saw Donkey Kong,
Yeah.
and they're like, hell nah, you're trying to steal King Kong. And they're like, what?
What's that?
And so, yeah, Nintendo was actually able to prove that it was under public domain. So they ended up not getting sued. But Universal tried to come for them.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Thanks.
as I mentioned, Mario started out as Jumpman. I could do the whole history of Mario because that's a whole story in itself.
Yeah.
So I didn't really dive too deep into like the history of each game.
Yeah.
I was watching, I did say my sources, but I missed a source. It was on a YouTube video that kind of covered like the history of Nintendo, and then it went into depth mostly about like the history of Pokemon, the history of Mario.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really use it that much for my research, but I was really interested watching it. So if you're curious about that, you literally can just look up the history of Nintendo, and it's the one that's like an hour long. But it really covers like Pokemon, which is
Yeah.
really interesting. So anyway, Basically, Mario started out as Jumpman, and he was a carpenter racing to save his girlfriend, Pauline, from an ape. And they later named him Mario after their office landlord.
I love that.
And when they were sketching Mario out, the first thing they drew was his nose, because they knew that that'd make him look more real. So they drew his big-ass nose and then a mustache. Gotta have the mustache. Of course, Luigi came way later. Mm-hmm. But again, I could do that, a whole episode on that. There's a big history to it. So in 1986, the Nintendo Entertainment System was released, and this was like the biggest thing they've ever produced to that point. So 2 years later, it became a hands-free controller, and the game library expanded to 65 titles. So it's kind of like if you ever seen the Nintendo 64.
Yeah.
It's like that, where it's just a box and you plug it in and you just have to sit by the TV and play. This was like life-changing.
Just blowing in the game.
Yeah.
Put it in the console.
Exactly. Gotta blow on it. You probably hear it like
literally
it plays the game. Oh, and then in 1989 we had the Game Boy. I
freaking love my Game Boy.
I know. And this was the first portable handheld game system with interchangeable game cartridges.
Ooh.
And it was introduced in Japan. And what else came out at this time was Tetris. Tetris was huge. People love Tetris. So that was also Nintendo. And the Game Boy at this time was $90 in today's standards. They're not bad. Most games on the Nintendo Entertainment System, I'm going to call it the NES for short, so because I have to mention it a lot. It came with 2 modes, easy and hard, so you could basically just like flip over the disc to the other side.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so if you're like getting really bored, you can challenge yourself with the hard side, which is pretty cool. And it also had a D-pad instead of a joystick. So it was easier to control like 2D games.
Yeah.
You know, like Pac-Man can sometimes be hard if you're like, if you like
Literally.
hit the joystick too far down and then he keeps going down, you're like, I wanted to turn.
Literally.
So having the little pad makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
The NES received the video game industry. The NES revived the video game industry after the crash in 1983. There was a huge video game crash. Mm-hmm. And it went on to sell 62 million units worldwide. So this was huge. Biggest video game at the time. But this was also the time that The Legend of Zelda came out. Yep. So that was a big success as well. Everyone was playing Zelda.
Yep.
And the Pokemon Yellow, Red, Green, and Blue games came out on the Game Boy. Mm-hmm. And this led to so many Pokemon games, including Pokemon Go later in 2016. But there are so many.
I'm going to be honest. I didn't know Pokemon was owned by Nintendo.
It started off as its own thing, and then Nintendo later owned it. It's kind of like Marvel. Like, it's like how Disney owns everything, but Marvel, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. But again, there's a long history.
I don't know anything about Pokemon. So.
Fair. Okay, so 64.4 million Game Boys were sold worldwide. And now it's a collector's item, but some still play it. Don't you play yours?
What?
Your Game Boy?
Oh, of course.
Iconic.
I have the Game Boy Advance.
Oh, yes.
So it's a square one.
Gotta have that one.
Oh, it's freaking awesome. You can change the light mode on it.
We love to see it.
It still works. It's in awesome condition, too. Like,
that's how everything is that was made back then.
Literally, like, they made some bomb-ass, like devices. Like, my DS still works perfectly fine, too.
Mine does, too. Like, it's just so weird because I feel like nowadays they're so focused on having to make new models all the time.
Yeah.
So you'll buy more. But back then it was like, if this breaks, people are going to not care about our company, you know?
Yeah.
So they really had to like grasp our attention by making products that lasted a long time.
Oh,
and it's just so different now.
I know. My DS, I had a regular DS, but I also have a 3DS, which that was really cool when I was in middle school.
I bet that's fun. I've never played on one.
It's interesting because there's literally like a mode on the top screen that you just adjust the dial, and it makes it like a 3D mode. Because I had Mario Party the 3D one.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. I've been trying to look for just like other Mario Karts and stuff, and I haven't been able to find them for the DS.
Yeah.
So I've been searching for a while.
That's fair. We will get to the DS world.
Yay.
But in 1991, the Super Nintendo Entertainment System came out. So instead of the NES, it's now the Super NES.
Wow.
And this was in competition with Sega's Genesis game, which was blowing up. Like, everyone was playing the Genesis, so they were like, we got to get in. Let's go. More Mario games, including Super Mario Kart and Super Mario World, came out on the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, which I love. Super Mario World. So fun.
Yeah.
Of course, Super Mario Kart is fun too, but like, there's nothing like Super Mario World. Sega competed with Mario by creating Sonic. So that was kind of the whole reason why they decided to create Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah.
Is because they were like, well, they got Mario. We need a character like that, basically. And on the Super NES, there were better graphics and faster gameplay. And the controller was more comfortable to hold. So you can kind of look up pictures if you're interested in the controllers, but they just look a little bit different. The Super Nintendo Entertainment System outsold the Genesis, and it was $200.
Damn.
So, yeah. And then Virtual Boy, that's the name of a console that came out. Unfortunately, it was a failure, but it was the first 3D console. And it was kind of like VR, basically. So you put on a headset, and then it just kind of takes you through like a 3D type movie situation, and you kind of use a joystick.
Interesting.
People hated it because it was giving people headaches. I think like because now with VR, they've tested everything. They've gone through all of that. They know how to make it safe.
Yeah.
But back then it wasn't. And people also found it really annoying because they could only use like red. And I think it was red and black.
Yeah.
So the colors were just like in your face.
Yeah.
And there wasn't good graphics. So it was kind of like they tried to be ahead of their time and like try something new, but they just were not ready.
Yeah. The technology just wasn't there.
Yeah. Which makes sense. VRs are really cool. Every time I play one, I just like feel like I'm in a different world.
Literally.
And I take it off and I'm like, in the living room? Okay. In 1996, the Nintendo 64 was released, and they changed the controller with lots of button options. So now you could hold the controller in actually 3 different ways. So they actually had like 3 different ways you could hold it. One that was like more common for a lot of games, one that was like only for a couple games. So I think if I remember right, in the beginning of the game, it would tell you how to hold it for that game. I remember the Nintendo 64 because my brother had it.
Love
and I used to
it.
just watch him play it. I'm pretty sure it was that one, unless he had the next one. I don't remember. Honestly, once I got to this point, a lot of them are very similar. So, but the graphics did get a lot better with the Nintendo 64, and you could also have up to 4 other players, which is a big deal. But they were competing with a little something called the PlayStation, and they did not make as close to many sales at all. Like, PlayStation was blowing up. I think it's just because like there's other options rather than just like Mario and like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, but that's always been Nintendo's big competition is PlayStation.
Oh, 100%.
So yeah. In 1996, the Game Boy Pocket came out, and it was super small, and it was lighter than the Game Boy Light, which was also another version of the Game Boy that came out in Japan. The reason why we have the light is because you couldn't see it in the dark. And so it kind of like, we had one of these. I think like either my brother or sister had it, but you had like a screen that you'd put over it so that you could see the light.
I think Erica had one.
Yeah, she had one too.
Well, hers was like a strict handheld one.
Yeah.
And over time, the screen has dimmed a lot, but I think it had an attachment of a light on it.
Yeah. Because we had that one too. Because I remember I had to like pull, like everyone else had like the one that you had. And I was just like, I like pulled out my old one with the little screen that I had to plug in. I remember that so well.
Oh, those were the good old days.
Right. Then we had the Game Boy Color in 1998 that came in with lots of colors, and it worked well.
That was really huge.
And there were so many new colors than there used to be. It used to just be like gray, and now it's like, Plus the screen, like, so they added colors. I know this sounds kind of confusing. They added colors to the actual system. So like you could buy more colors of the actual Game Boy, but it also had more colors in the game. Yeah. So it was like colors all around. In 1999, they they added even more color options, and it used to just be kind of like purple, but now they added red, green, yellow, and blue. So this is like how you can actually buy a Game Boy. It used to just be like gray, black, purple, and now you can buy fun colors. It's kind of like what the iPhone did.
Literally.
There were also games not owned by Nintendo, like Shrek, which I had that game and it was so fun.
I think I had Shrek too, and I still play it. The Puss in Boots like side quest is the hardest.
Yeah. Wait, did you have the Finding Nemo game?
I did.
I feel like we already talked about this on here for some reason, but
probably.
I could never get past a certain level.
Yeah.
The bubbles.
It was hard. Same with the Lilo and Stitch game.
Oh yes. Oh,
that was hard.
One thing I do remember is the Polly Pocket one.
You know, I think I had that.
You go down a water slide or something.
Dude, that's so vivid. I don't think I have it. I think I lost it, but I know I had it.
Yeah.
I bought like a few of them, I think, a couple years ago before we went to New York.
Okay.
I bought like a quads game, and my husband, he was like, I can't play this. The graphics are so terrible.
I love that you brought a Game Boy. I bet everyone on the plane was like, what is that?
Literally, the funny thing is that when we were coming back, I was playing on my DS the whole time because I have Zoo Tycoon on there.
Oh, yeah.
And the kid next to me was playing on his Switch. And I was like, wow, generational gap.
Yeah, exactly. That's so true. I love it.
I kind of looked over. I was like, mine's better.
So you had the Game Boy Advance?
I did.
That one was the next one I'm going to talk about. Came out in 2001. So
I think I got it around that time.
You could play the Super Nintendo Entertainment System games on it. Like it came with a little port that you could put into it.
Huh.
So a lot of people they wanted people to switch to more of the handheld because that's what they wanted a future in. But like so many people are playing consoles.
Yeah.
So they tried to add that so that people would end up buying it more.
I think I got mine in maybe 2003.
But you have the foldable one.
Yeah.
Okay. So that one came out in 2003.
Okay.
So the first one was just the Game Boy Advance. So it was still just like that one.
Yeah.
And then the foldable version came out and it's known as the SP. It's like Game Boy Advance SP. So it has a brighter screen and a rechargeable battery.
Yeah.
Where it used to just be like, I think you had to literally put batteries in it. In the old ones.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because mine, you had to put batteries in it.
Mine was a plug-in.
Dude, this is crazy.
Okay. It's very nostalgic.
Those were a hit. They sold around 80 million units. Like I said, like I remember everyone had one. Yeah, woo! I had my old one that I had to touch the screen to. Because I got the hand-me-down. Oh, whatever. I'm not salty. In 2001, we had the smallest game system, and it was the Pokemon Mini. It looks like a Tamagotchi. Like, that's how small it is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it really only sold in Japan, and it just continued after a year. People got bored.
Yeah.
And then also in 2001 was the Nintendo GameCube. That's the one my brother had.
GameCube,
yeah.
yep.
And this was the one that used discs instead of cartridges. So this was like revolutionary. We now have discs. They're like mini discs. They're so cute. Oh my God. CDs. I wonder how many of you know what a CD is. Most of our listeners are older, so shout out to you. You get it. But the GameCube was also competing with the PlayStation, but not only the PlayStation, but also Xbox. So big competition all around.
Yep.
Honestly, it was like PlayStation was like above and beyond, and then Xbox and Nintendo were like trying to keep up. Like, we can get there.
Oh, yeah. Especially when you're coming to the early 2000s.
Yeah. It's a rough time.
It was tough.
Yeah. And this was our whole childhood, which is crazy because like Jamie and I talk about all the time how we got to witness like the 90s and like not having technology and stuff. But then we also got to see technology progress so much.
Yeah, because we're technically not millennials because we were born in 97, but we don't fit in with the Gen Zs either because we were in that like transition. So I have found that they are called Zillennials. Because it's like half millennials and half Gen Z. That. So it's like kind of put in because, like there's so much things that I cannot relate with Gen Z and with like millennials, like because we were at like the end of the 90s, like we kind of witnessed a lot of it.
Yeah.
But like it wasn't like during its prime, I guess you could say.
Right. Yeah, like I feel like half the time I'm millennial, other times I'm a Gen Z. Like in just my thought process, I feel like I'm more of a Gen Z.
And it all comes down to like, because we have older siblings.
Yeah.
And they
that were
had
millennials.
All of that.
Yeah. That's true. And I mean, even simple things like passing down their Game Boy, you know,
exactly.
Like little things like that where we got to witness them playing those older games and watching those older shows.
And then we kind of got into it.
Yeah.
So
for sure. It's a cool time.
We don't fit in.
No. They actually released their first wireless controller before the PlayStation and Xbox in 2002. Yeah. But the GameCube really only had 8 games with internet, including Animal Crossing. This is the first Animal Crossing game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So a lot of the games you weren't able to play with people online. You had to just kind of play by yourself or, you know, with the extra controllers. But this was another huge hit. They sold 22 million units, which was close to the Xbox at 24 million. But the PlayStation 2 at this point had sold 155 million.
Oh my God. I think
so 22, 24, 155.
That's the one that James had growing up. And he's
the
PlayStation
2 was so popular.
Well, he wants to buy it because they have all of these like hunting games.
Okay.
That he really wants to just get and play. And I'm like, honestly, I don't think you'll get into video games. But what else?
I think they're on PlayStation 6, 5.
I have no idea.
I think we have a 5. I don't know. Basil bought it. 5? I don't fucking know.
I don't know.
Anyway. And this is our time, Jamie. In 2004, the Nintendo DS came out. Woo, woo, woo. Woo, woo. DS stands for Developer System and Dual Screen. So 2 things at once. The bottom was a touch screen and the top display screen was just for display. But it came with a stylus, Wi-Fi connection, and a built-in microphone. I remember feeling so cool with that stylus.
Oh my God, same.
Just tap, 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 tap.
Mine was blue and black.
Oh, yeah, oh my God.
Yours was red.
Yeah, my first DS was red. But do you remember it was broken when I got it? Like, pretty much broken already.
I knew it was at one point.
Half the time, if I like it would work most days, but some days it wouldn't work. Even like picto chatting, it would just start drawing random lines. But I told my parents, but like we didn't try to exchange it, so I just kind of dealt with it to the point where, and then it got to the point where the screen wouldn't stay open, and I had to like hold it open, otherwise it'd close.
I remember that.
So I had a rough time, but I loved my DS.
I put stickers on mine.
So you had was it dark blue?
Yeah, it was kind of like a royal blue.
Yeah, okay.
And then like the bottom half was like black.
Yeah. Oh my God. Such great times.
Yeah.
You could play Game Boy games on it, which was really fun.
Yes, because it had the DS, and then at the bottom it had the Game Boy insert. Yeah. But on the 3DS, it didn't.
Yeah.
It was strictly just DS games.
Right. So I think that's why I like don't remember playing the Game Boy, because I don't think I really played Game Boy games until the DS came, and then I was able to play my siblings' old games on it, and I felt so cool. Also, you could picto chat, which was so fun. You could like write down all the tea and picto chat with random people in the car. Did you ever do that? Like connect to random people driving?
No.
Yeah, you could do that sometimes. It was very rare. But there were many new games that came out, like Brain Age and Nintendogs, my personal favorite.
Love Nintendogs. Mine are still dying slowly.
Oh my God, that game was legit. I saved up for it was like a beach house, and it was like $1 million. And then once I bought it, I was like, what now? Like there's nothing.
I never knew how you would progress in that game.
It was just getting rich and then having your dogs be really good at agility.
Yeah, it was very time consuming.
It was. I freaking loved it though.
Oh yeah, it was great.
Walks. Do you remember they bring you gifts, or you had to clean up their poop and stuff?
Yep.
And you could just like skip it and not clean up their poop. I remember that too. Yeah. You could just keep walking. Oh my God, such a good game.
My favorite still by far that I play every time we're on a plane is Zoo Tycoon.
Yeah. I feel like I had that too.
The graphics are terrible, but man, it's so fun.
My favorite was Super Monkey Ball.
Oh my God, yes.
I loved which is Sega, which is kind of funny, but I freaking loved that game.
I loved Cooking Mama.
Cooking Mama! Oh my God, Cooking Mama was so fun.
My mom loves it. Sometimes she's like, "Oh, can I play this?" I'm like, "Okay."
I will say I've tried to download like Cooking Mama phone games and stuff. Nothing compares.
Nope.
To the OG. Mm-mm. Yeah. So good old DS. We could geek out about this forever. Literally. It was such a big part of my childhood. So then a couple years later, the DS Lite came out, and this was like a slimmer and lighter version of it, and it had a longer battery, but it still pretty much looked the same. And then the DSi came out in 2008, and this is the ultra slim build with larger screens, and it also had 2 cameras, but you couldn't play Game Boy games anymore. So I actually ended up getting a DSi. It was like later on. So that's one I have now. It's like a light blue DSi.
I don't think I've seen it.
Yeah. Because I eventually was just like, I can't play my DS anymore. But I didn't get that one until like middle school or high school. Like I feel like I got it way later. So, but yeah, it's pretty cool. You can take pictures of yourself and they're very low quality. But then a year later, they released another model with improved speakers. And then the PlayStation Portable came out, which is also known as the PSP. I freaking loved those things. My brother had one, and I always asked him to play it.
I remember that.
It was released the same year as the DS, but it wasn't as popular as the DS. The DS was the highest selling handheld console of all time, and it still has that place. It's even more popular than the Switches, which is interesting.
Can believe that.
Yeah. So out of all the products Nintendo has sold, DS is number 1. Good job, baby. So proud of you.
So proud.
Yay! Cheering you on. One day the Switch is going to pass it. It's going to be so devastating.
I know.
And then we have the Wii.
Oh my God. You have no idea how many hours Erica and I spent playing Just Dance on the Wii. We still play Just Dance together almost every Tuesday.
On the Wii?
Well, it's on the Switch now.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, wow.
Oh, we would play it for hours. Like because we got the Wii when it first came out for Christmas. And we spent all of Christmas Day and the rest of like that whole Christmas break playing Just Dance. And every single year, my mom would get us a new Just Dance.
Aw, that's a cute idea.
Yeah, and then we would play for hours.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I love that.
Oh, yeah. Night in the afternoon. It's Raining Men and TikTok. Oh, we know those by heart.
I had Just Dance on my Xbox, the Kinect. And oh my God. Like, that's when I had the Beauty and the Bee. Yeah, there's so many that I know. Never gonna give you up. Oh my God. Yeah, I still know all those by heart. I freaking love Just Dance.
I do too. It's so fun.
But anyway, the Wii console, if you don't know what we're talking about, it was a motion controlled game system. So like you just put on the wristband. A lot of times we didn't put on the wristband. Ooh, rebellious. But I remember they would always be like, if you don't put the wristband on, you could break your TV.
Honestly, even holding it, there's so many times where I freaking whacked my sister and my mom.
It's dangerous.
It is.
You could also connect nunchucks which I think you had to use for certain games.
Oh yeah, like the Wii Sports.
Yeah, which I was just about to talk about. We had the Wii Sports. I had 5 sports games, and it was the 4th most sold game of all time.
Oh yeah, my mom still likes to boast about how much she's a pro in the bowling.
Oh my God. Do you remember when you would accidentally put it back and everyone would go, whoa! They would just like float. Oh my God. What was your favorite sports game?
Oh my God. Honestly, I'm terrible at tennis and I don't really like tennis, but the tennis one is always so much fun.
Yeah.
But I like baseball too.
Yeah. I always was really good at the tennis one, but in real life, I cannot play tennis.
No, it's hard.
So I really liked that. I felt athletic.
Oh, the Wii games one? Freaking, oh my God, we played hours on that one because there is a game that is on the Wii, like the Wii games. It came with the Wii Sports. If you got like a deluxe package.
Yeah, we had that too.
And there is one where it's a race game, but you're on a cow and you race the cow.
Oh my God, I totally forgot.
And to get points, you have to run into scarecrows.
Yes. Oh my God.
We would play hours on this.
Oh, that game was so fun.
It was so fun. I love it. We still play it on occasion because I think my mom has it still. And it still works.
Really?
Yeah, like she does a Wii Fit from time to time because they have like a whole yoga thing for it. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
It's wild.
Oh man, we got rid of ours a while ago. But my grandma had one too. Mm-hmm. And so whenever we'd like go to Wyoming for Christmas and stuff, we'd always play just like Wii Sports all night. It was so fun.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, Wii was honestly like revolutionary because this was the first time you could move around while playing a game, which was like, wow, shocking.
Nintendo on top of it.
Yeah. Technically, the Wii also released the Wii U, and the Nintendo Switch is a part of Wii, which is interesting.
Yeah.
So, in 2011, we had the Nintendo 3DS, which you were talking about earlier, but of course you could kind of turn on the 3D mode or not, but it had better graphics and the 3D design without 3D glasses, which was another really cool thing. Mm-hmm. And it also had online game compatibility. Did you ever play with anyone online?
No, but I had Club Penguin.
Oh, nice. I had that one on DS. That was fun. It was actually upsetting. It wasn't as cool as the game.
No, well, because you can go online. It was literally just like working out like secret missions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Honestly, before our New York trip, I might go to Entertainment and see if I can find more.
The Amazon have them?
I looked and they're kind of pricey. That's why I like going to Entertainment.
You would think they'd drop the price of DSs at this point.
Oh, God, no.
Yeah.
Because they're collectibles now.
That's true. Mm-hmm. You know, the cartridges were so small.
Oh my God, I know.
I always lost games.
Yeah, that's why I had a case. And then they also came with like, or you could buy like those cases where you could fit like 6 games into one case.
Ones I had. But then there were others that I just like would lose. Like, I don't know where they went.
Oh, my sister and I would fight over like who has which game. Like, I still ask my sister, I'm like, hey, do you have this game? Because one of my favorites too that I loved playing was the Lizzie McGuire game.
Oh, I didn't even have that one.
That one was the best. I loved it. And then Cars.
Oh, the Cars game was so good.
Yeah, I got the Cars 2 one and it's not the same. The first one is the best.
Fair. Mm-hmm. Well, also with the Wii, this memory came up. Whenever the Wii would always ask like your weight and stuff.
Yeah.
It would call everyone obese. Literally everyone. It just like try to destroy you. Because I remember I was on TikTok like a few months ago and I saw someone say like, I've been traumatized ever since the Wii called me obese. And everyone in the comments was like, yeah, same. I remember that.
That's how you get a problem.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, there were upgraded versions of the 3DS that came out and a new 2DS that came out in 2013.
Oh, really?
So they tried to like make it look like the basics of the original, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Throwback.
So the new 3DS in 2014 came out, and then a 3DS XL was introduced. It's just a little bit bigger. Mm-hmm. And then the new Nintendo 2DS XL came out in 2017. They were not giving up. But in 2016, they actually released a Nintendo Entertainment System Classic Edition. So it was like basically looked similar to the original with the original games, but it was a lot smaller and like could function like how we are able to function video games nowadays.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, I'm guessing that
they
didn't sell a lot of it, but I'm sure there are people who have it who are, 100%. Living their best life. And the Super Nintendo Entertainment System Classic came out and it had more of the original games in 2017, so that was just a year later. This was also the year of the Nintendo Switch, which was a huge success, and the Zelda games were a massive success on the Switch, as well as Animal Crossing.
Oh yeah.
If you were around during the pandemic, this game went off the charts.
Oh, I bet.
So Animal Crossing New Horizons. I remember being in the Pandy, good old 2020 times. All my friends had Animal Crossing and like kept getting Switches, and I was like, oh my God, I need to get a Switch.
Oh yeah, it was like impossible for people to get them.
Yeah,
they would sell out so quick.
They really were, and Animal Crossing was so huge.
Yeah.
So, and it also has motion controls on some of the newer versions, so you can use it like a Wii, of course, like you were talking about, Just Dance. The old model of the Switch came out. Hold on. I don't know. There was another version that came out in 2021. And honestly, a big thing we have to thank for the Nintendo Switch success is 2020.
Yeah.
COVID-19. Because it really led people, like, they had to stay home. What else are they going to do? So I was lucky to get a Switch for free from my friend last year.
Oh, damn.
So I have the older version. I don't have the one that connects to the TV. But I still like to take mine out once in a while, play some Mario.
Yeah.
Actually, after researching this, I was like, I'm going to charge up my Switch. So that leads us to today. It's just a fun little history. We kind of see how we are able to progress from one video game system to the next. So that's the history of Nintendo. And yes, of course, now you can go to, there's many amusement parks that are themed around Mario and Nintendo in general. I think both of the Universal Studios have them now. Or is it just
only
one? One? Is it the one in
California?
California, okay.
They are going to build the one in Florida, and then I know Japan, of course, has theirs. And
Japan's looks really cool.
Oh yeah.
So if you ever find yourself any of those places, definitely go check it out.
It's very busy.
But yay!
Yeah,
I thought we could relive our childhood a little bit there.
I love it. Where can you find us?
You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at His Story of the Podcast. You can email us at hisstoryofthepodcast@gmail.com. Go to the picture that we just posted with this episode and comment your favorite Nintendo system.
Yes, I want to know.
Or we'll do a little poll too when we post it. So Are you more of a Wii person or a DS person or, you know, the Nintendo 64, a Switch? Yeah. We'll do a little poll. It'll be interesting.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll let you know the results.
Yes.
All right. Awesome. Thank you for listening, and we will talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye.